The emergency room at Boston Memorial Hospital hummed with controlled chaos on that rainy Thursday evening. Dr. Olivia Reed pulled her dark hair into a messy bun, her green eyes scanning the patient board with practiced efficiency. She'd been on shift for 8 hours, treating everything from broken bones to heart attacks, and the night was far from over. "Incoming trauma," Jasmine Park called out, her best friend's voice cutting through the noise. "Car accident, minor injuries, but the patient requested our VIP wing." Olivia raised an eyebrow. The VIP wing usually meant someone wealthy or famous. She grabbed a tablet and headed toward examination room 7, her white coat swishing behind her. Nothing could have prepared her for what waited beyond that door when past meets present. The scent of expensive cologne mixed with antiseptic filled the small room. A man sat on the examination table, his designer suit jacket draped over a chair, his white shirt torn at the shoulder. He looked up as she entered, and time seemed to stop. Nathan Cross. The tablet nearly slipped from her hands. 5 years dissolved in an instant. His dark hair was shorter now, touched with gray at the temples. His jaw was sharper, harder, as if carved from the same stone he'd used to build his empire. But his eyes, those deep brown eyes, held the same intensity that had once made her believe in forever. Olivia. Her name left his lips like a prayer and an apology all at once. She forced herself to breathe, to remember her training, to be professional. "Mr. Cross," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm Dr. Reed. I'll be treating you tonight." The weight of unspoken words, his gaze never left her face as she approached. "You became a doctor," he said softly. "You did it. People change, Mr. Cross. They grow up. They move on." She picked up his chart, though the words blurred before her eyes. "Tell me about the accident." "Nothing serious. My driver swerved to avoid a pedestrian. I hit my head on the window," touched his temple where a small cut had already stopped bleeding. "But that's not why I'm here." "You requested the VIP wing for a minor cut." She pulled on latex gloves, her hands trembling slightly. "Requested the best doctor in Boston." "I didn't know it would be you." She cleaned the wound with careful, precise movements, years of training overriding the storm inside her chest. This close, she could see the faint scar on his chin from when he'd fallen during their hike in Muir Woods. She could smell the same soap he'd always used. Memory crashed over her like waves against rocks, echoes of a forgotten melody. "Any dizziness? Nausea? Blurred vision?" she asked, checking his pupils with a small light. "Only when I look at you," he whispered. Her hand froze. "Mr. Cross, if you cannot take this seriously, I've thought about you every day for 5 years, Olivia. Every single day." She stepped back, peeling off the gloves with more force than necessary. "That's interesting, considering you disappeared without a word. No call, no explanation, just ... gone." The muscle in his jaw tightened. "You don't understand what happened? Then enlighten me." She crossed her arms, the professional mask cracking. "Because from where I stood, you chose your reputation over everything we had." Before he could answer, his phone buzzed on the table. The ringtone filled the room. Clair de Lune, the piano piece she'd played for him the first night they met. The melody that had become their song. Her breath caught in her throat. "The crack in the armor, you still... She couldn't finish the sentence. Nathan picked up the phone, silenced it, but didn't look away from her. "I never changed it. I couldn't." Jasmine appeared in the doorway, her expression professional despite the curiosity in her eyes. "Dr. Reed, we need you in trauma too." "Multiple casualties from a bus accident." Olivia nodded, grateful for the interruption. "I'll send in Dr. Patterson to finish your examination and order a CT scan. Standard procedure for head injuries." Olivia wait, but she was already moving toward the door. "Doctor," he called out, his voice rough with emotion. She paused without turning around. "The universe doesn't give second chances often. Don't waste this one." She looked back at him, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Some chances aren't worth taking twice. Mr. Cross, some wounds are too deep to heal." The secret revealed hours later, when her shift ended at midnight. Olivia found Jasmine waiting in the staff lounge with 2 cups of coffee. So, Jasmine said carefully, handing her a cup. Nathan Cross. The Nathan Cross. Tech billionaire, under 40 CEO. Engaged to Diana Hartwell, she stopped when she saw Olivia's face. You knew him. I loved him. The words came out broken. 5 years ago in San Francisco? Before everything fell apart, what happened? Before Olivia could answer, her pager beeped. A message from radiology. Nathan's CT scan results were ready. And there was a note marked urgent. She pulled up the file on the nearest computer, her medical training kicking in as she scanned the images. Then she saw a small shadow on the scan, something that shouldn't be there. Her blood ran cold. Nathan Cross didn't just have a minor head injury. The scan showed signs of something far more serious, something that explained why he'd really come to Boston, to her hospital, to her. He was sick, and from the looks of the preliminary results, he might be running out of time. Jasmine looked over her shoulder and gasped softly. Olivia. Does he know? I don't think so. The symptoms would be subtle at first. Her hand shook as she reached for her phone. She had a choice to make: walk away and let another doctor deliver the news, or face the man who'd broken her heart and tell him his life was about to change forever. Outside, rain streaked down the window, and somewhere in the distance, the faint melody of Clair de Lune drifted from a street musician's piano. Destiny, it seemed, wasn't finished with them yet. San Francisco, 2019. The city glowed like scattered jewels against the bay as the National Medical Innovation Conference drew together the brightest minds in healthcare. Olivia Monroe used her middle name as her professional surname, then stood nervously before the exhibition hall, smoothing down her navy dress. At 24, she was the youngest presenter, showcasing her father's groundbreaking research on regenerative cellular therapy. Nathan Cross had come to the conference as an investor, searching for the next big breakthrough for his emerging tech company. He'd been tired of the endless pitches, the rehearsed smiles, the people who saw only his bank account. Then he'd heard a voice, clear, passionate, unafraid, talking about healing instead of profits. He'd found himself drawn to her booth. Captivated not by the science, she explained, but by the fire in her eyes when she spoke about saving lives. When she'd fumbled her presentation slides and laughed at her own nervousness, something in his carefully constructed world had shifted. 3 weeks. The weeks that changed everything. You're not like the other investors. Olivia had said that first evening as they shared coffee at a waterfront cafe. The Golden Gate Bridge glowing orange in the sunset. How so? Nathan had asked, genuinely curious. You asked about my father's patients? Not the profit margins. Not the market potential. The people who might actually benefit from this research? He'd smiled a real smile, not the practiced one he wore for board meetings. Maybe I'm tired of measuring everything in dollars. It spent the next 3 weeks in a bubble removed from reality. Morning walks through Golden Gate Park. Late-night discussions about the ethics of medical advancement. A spontaneous trip to Muir Woods where he'd slipped on wet leaves and cut his chin, and she'd bandaged it with hands that trembled because she was already falling for him the night she'd played. Clair de Lune on her apartment's old upright piano. He'd stood behind her, mesmerized. My mother used to play this, he'd whispered. Before she got sick? She'd turned to him, and without words, they'd understood each other's grief is for a mother lost to cancer. Hers for watching her father slowly lose himself to early onset dementia. That night, everything changed. They became inseparable, reckless with hope, believing that love could transcend the different worlds they came from. When paradise shattered, the photograph appeared on a gossip blog 3 days later. Nathan and Olivia leaving a restaurant, his hand on her back, her head tilted toward his shoulder. The headline screamed, Cross-Tech CEO's new acquisition, young researcher or gold digger? Olivia had laughed it off at first. Let them talk. We know the truth, but the truth, she learned, was a fragile thing in the world of money and power. Diana Hartwell's father, Gerald Hartwell, owned the largest medical investment firm on the West Coast. He'd been courting Nathan for months, offering partnership deals worth billions. Diana herself had been pursuing Nathan for over a year, seeing him as the perfect merger of wealth, influence, and ambition. When Diana saw the photograph, she didn't rage. She planned the web of lies within 48 hours. Anonymous sources leaked information to medical boards suggesting Olivia had plagiarized her father's research, that she'd fabricated patient data, that she was using Nathan's interest to secure fraudulent funding. None of this is true. Olivia had pleaded with the conference organizers. Please, just verify the sources, but mud sticks, especially when thrown by hands wealthy enough to make it permanent. Nathan's advisors had called an emergency meeting. This girl is destroying your reputation, his CFO had insisted. Gerald Hartwell is threatening to pull out of the deal. You need to distance yourself immediately. She wouldn't do this, Nathan had argued, though doubt had already begun its poisonous work. You don't know her, neither do you, Diana had interjected smoothly, peering at his office with perfectly manufactured concern. 3 weeks, Nathan. You've known her 3 weeks. My father's investigators found records of previous relationships with investors. She has a pattern. The documents looked authentic. The photos were damning. And Nathan, exhausted from building his company, grieving his mother, and terrified of losing everything he'd worked for, made the choice that would haunt him for 5 years. He stopped answering Olivia's calls. The follow, Olivia's world collapsed with terrifying speed. Her research grant was suspended pending investigation. Her father, already fragile, suffered a severe decline when the stress triggered a series of small strokes. The hospital where she'd trained rescinded her residency offer. She'd gone to Nathan's office building, desperate to make him understand. Security had turned her away. She'd written him a letter, pouring out everything the truth about the lies. Her father's condition, and the secret she'd just discovered. She was pregnant. The letter never reached him. Diana intercepted it, read it once, then burned it in her fireplace while sipping champagne. 2 weeks later, exhausted and heartbroken, Olivia had been driving her father to a new care facility when a delivery truck ran a red light. The crash left her with 3 broken ribs, a concussion, a miscarriage she endured alone in a hospital where no one knew her name. Her father never recovered. He passed away 6 months later, his last words a confused question. Where's the young man who made you smile? The truth unearthed Boston, present day. Nathan sat in his hotel suite, the city lights blurring before his eyes as his private investigator laid out the evidence. The documents were forged, the investigator explained, spreading papers across the coffee table. Paid for by Gerald Hartwell's firm. The so-called previous investors Olivia supposedly scammed? They don't exist. The photos were staged with a paid actor. Nathan's hands shook as he picked up each piece of evidence. 5 years. 5 years he'd believed a lie. There's more, the investigator continued carefully. Hospital records from San Francisco General. Olivia Reed changed her last name after leaving. California was admitted 3 weeks after you stopped contact. Miscarriage. She was 12 weeks pregnant. The room tilted. Nathan gripped the edge of the table, his vision swimming. No, he whispered. No, that's not I didn't know, but he should have known. He should have trusted. He should have fought for the truth instead of accepting the easier path, confronting the architect of Liz Diana's penthouse, overlooked Boston Harbor, all glass and cold marble. She smiled when Nathan arrived, perfectly composed in a white silk dress. Darling, I wasn't expecting you tonight. Were you ever going to tell me the truth? His voice was iced. Her smile faltered. I don't know what the forged documents, the fabricated evidence, the letter you burned. He stepped closer, his fury barely contained. The baby she lost while I was signing partnership deals with your father? Diana's mask cracked, revealing the calculating woman beneath. She would have ruined you, Nathan. She was nobody. She was everything. The words erupted from him. And you took her from me. You took our child. You took 5 years of our lives. I saved your company, Diana hissed. My father made you a billionaire. Without us, Crosstech would have failed. Then let it fail. He pulled off the engagement ring he'd been carrying and set it on her marble counter. We're done. All of it, the engagement, the partnership, everything. I want nothing that came from your family's blood money. You'll regret this, Diana warned, her voice venomous. I'll destroy her all over again. Nathan turned back, his expression colder than she'd ever seen. Try it, and I'll spend every dollar I have making sure the truth comes out. The media will love the story of how the Hartwells built their empire on lies and manipulation. He left her standing alone in her pristine prison, the ring glittering mockingly under the chandelier light. Olivia sat across from Dr. Raymond Chen, Boston Memorial's chief of neurology, reviewing Nathan's scans for the third time. The shadow on the imaging had resolved into a diagnosis, a slow-growing meningioma pressing against his frontal lobe. Benign, but dangerous if left untreated. The symptoms would have been subtle, Dr. Chen explained. Headaches he'd attribute to stress, occasional vision disturbances, minor personality changes he might not even notice. How long has he had it? Olivia asked, her voice clinical despite the turmoil inside. Based on the size and growth pattern, possibly years. It's operable, but delicate. He'll need a surgeon with extensive experience in this specific procedure. Dr. Chen looked at her knowingly. There are only 3 surgeons on the East Coast qualified for this. You trained under the best of them. Olivia closed her eyes. Of course. Of course, fate would demand this of her to save the life of the man who'd shattered hers. The choice to stay or run, you don't have to do this. Jasmine said that evening as they sat in Olivia's small apartment in Cambridge. Rain drummed against the windows, creating rivers of light against the dark glass. You can refer him to someone else. No one would blame you. Olivia traced the rim of her wineglass, her thoughts scattered. He's going to die if someone doesn't help him, Jess. The tumor is positioned near critical vessels. A less experienced surgeon, could you still love him? It wasn't a question. I still remember loving him, Olivia corrected quietly. There's a difference. Jasmine leaned forward, her expression gentle but firm. Sweetie, you play Clair de Lune every night on that piano. You've never dated anyone seriously since San Francisco. You moved across the country and changed your name, but you didn't change your heart. Olivia's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Please, I need to talk to you. Not as a patient, as someone who owes you the truth. Her finger hovered over the delete button. Then another message arrived. I know what happened to you after I left. I know about your father. I know about the baby. I'm so sorry. The glass slipped from her hand, wine splashing across the hardwood floor like blood. He knows, she whispered. Oh God, he knows. The meeting they met at the hospital's rooftop garden at midnight, a space few people knew existed. The city spread before them, millions of lights pretending to be stars. Nathan stood by the railing, his hands shoved in his coat pockets, his shoulders carrying the weight of 5 years' worth of regret. Thank you for coming, he said without turning around. Olivia stood 10 feet away, her arms wrapped around herself against the cold. Dr. Chen told me about your condition. I'm arranging a consultation with. I don't want to talk about the tumor. He finally faced her, and she saw that his eyes were red, haunted. I want to talk about how I failed you. How I believed lies instead of trusting what I felt in my heart. How I let you face everything alone. Nathan, I hired an investigator. I have proof of everything Diana and her father did. The forged documents, the paid actors, the conspiracy to destroy your reputation. The letter you sent me that I never saw. The one about our baby. Tears burned in Olivia's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Why now? Why does any of this matter now? Because I'm standing here looking at you, and I realize that every success I've had means nothing. I built an empire on lies. I chose money over truth. I let the only real thing in my life slip away because I was too much of a coward to fight for it. Can't fix this with apologies, Nathan. You can't undo what happened. I know. He took a step closer, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. But maybe I can try to deserve your forgiveness, even if it takes the rest of my life. The grand gesture the next morning, Nathan called a press conference that sent shockwaves through the business world. Standing before cameras, he exposed everything Gerald Hartwell's fraud, Diana's manipulation, the conspiracy that had destroyed an innocent woman's career. 5 years ago. I made the worst mistake of my life, he told the assembled reporters. I trusted the wrong people and betrayed someone who deserved better. Olivia Reed was a brilliant researcher who did nothing wrong. The accusations against her were fabricated by people who saw her as a threat to their plans. I'm here today to set the record straight and accept responsibility for my role in what happened to her. He announced the dissolution of his partnership with Hartwell Industries, the end of his engagement to Diana, and the creation of a new foundation in Robert Reed's name to fund research into dementia and Alzheimer's disease. I can't undo the past, he concluded, looking directly into the camera as if speaking to Olivia alone, but I can spend every day moving forward trying to become the man she believed I was, the man I should have been all along. The operation 2 weeks later, Olivia stood in operating room 3, her hands steady as she held the scalpel. Nathan lay before her, unconscious, vulnerable, his life literally in her hands. "Ready, Dr. Reed?" her surgical nurse asked. She looked at his face, peaceful in medically induced sleep. She thought of the boy who'd hiked through redwood forests with her, the man who'd listened to her play piano at midnight, the father who'd never known his child existed. "Ready?" she said, and made the first incision. The surgery lasted 9 hours. 9 hours of millimeter-perfect movements, of nerves and vessels, and the thin line between life and death. Jasmine assisted, her presence a steady reminder that Olivia didn't face this alone. When the tumor was finally removed, intact and complete, the O erupted in quiet congratulations. Olivia stepped back, stripped off her gloves, and allowed herself one moment of weakness, a single tear that traced down her cheek behind her surgical mask. "He's going to make it," Jasmine whispered. Olivia nodded. "Yeah, he is." The awakening Nathan woke 3 days later to soft afternoon light and the distant sound of a piano. His head ached, but the fog that had clouded his thoughts for years felt lifted. He turned slowly and saw her sitting by the window. "Reading a medical journal, Olivia," he whispered. She looked up, and for the first time since that night in the ER, she smiled a real smile, small but genuine. "Welcome back, Mr. Cross. How are you feeling?" "Like someone rearranged my brain, that's accurate." She set down the journal and approached his bed, checking his vitals with professional efficiency. "The surgery went well. We removed the entire tumor. You'll need monitoring, but the prognosis is excellent. You saved my life. I did my job." "Olivia," he caught her hand, and she didn't pull away. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I can't erase what happened, but please, give me a chance to prove that I've changed, that I understand what I lost, what I threw away." She looked at their joined hands, her expression unreadable. "The tumor affected your frontal lobe, Nathan. It can change personality, decision-making, impulse control. The man who walked away 5 years ago, maybe he wasn't entirely himself. Don't make excuses for me. I made my choices. Maybe, or maybe we both deserved better than what fate gave us the first time." She squeezed his hand gently. "I'm not ready to forgive you. I don't know if I ever will be. But I'm willing to start fresh. No past, no expectations. Just two people who get to choose differently this time." Hope bloomed in his chest, fragile and precious. "I'll take it. Whatever you're willing to give." 6 months later, the community center in Cambridge's medical district buzzed with activity. Nathan stood beside Olivia at the dedication ceremony for the Robert Reed Center for Medical Research and Patient Care, a state-of-the-art facility funded by the dissolution of his partnership with the Hartwells. "Your father would be proud," Nathan said softly as they watched young medical students tour the research labs. "He would have liked what you've become," Olivia replied. "Not the billionaire. The man who chose truth over profit." They'd spent the past 6 months rebuilding, not their relationship, but themselves. Coffee meetings that turned into long walks. Conversations that started professional and ended personal. Slowly, carefully, they'd learned each other again. Older and wiser and carrying scars that would never fully heal. That evening, after the ceremony ended, they found themselves at Olivia's apartment. She'd kept her old piano, the one from San Francisco, having it shipped across the country as her one concession to sentimentality. "Will you play?" Nathan asked. She sat at the bench, and he joined her, just as he had that first night. Her fingers found the keys. Clair de Lune filled the small room, the melody that had witnessed their beginning and their ending, and now, perhaps their second chance. When the last note faded, he turned to her. I love you, Olivia. I never stopped. I know I have no right to say. She met his gaze, and in her eyes he saw everything: the pain, the hope, the careful courage of someone who'd survived being broken and chose to risk loving again anyway. I love you too, she whispered, and I'm terrified. Me too. She kissed him then, soft and tentative, a question and an answer all at once. Outside, rain began to fall, gentle against the windows, washing the city clean. They'd lost 5 years. They'd lost a child who would never be. They'd lost the innocent belief that love alone could conquer everything. But they'd gained something more valuable. The knowledge that real love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other again and again, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. As they held each other in the soft lamplight, the piano silent but still holding the echo of their song, both of them knew that this time would be different. This time they were ready.